guys, welcome back to Strong Successful Male. So for today, I'm going to do an update to a video I covered about a month ago, which is titled, My Years Working as a Photographer Taught Me Everything About Women, Female Nature, etc. And as a recap, because it's been a month, that's about the guy. Right now he's 60 years old, but back in the day, decades ago, he became a photographer. He was an engineer by trade, had a PhD, but decided photography was his passion. And when he started his career, he started obviously taking pictures of models, in particular this one, a nude model, who he nicknamed Jessica for the story. And as you all recall, that experience with her taught him everything that he needed to know about female nature, which is no different back then as it is today. It's quite revealing. A lot of the BS that she was pulling with her husband at the time, her craving for attention and validation, things he learned back then, and his experience about them, which he applied in life, all these things. So it was an interesting story. It's worth covering the story. Now, he's writing an update as to actually more of a Q&A thing. There were a lot of people that had questions for him in the comment section. Good questions, bad questions, trolling and all that. So he's going to respond to a bunch of those because a lot of people just... YouTube is YouTube with trolling and stuff like that, but this guy wanted to respond to a bunch of things and get more in depth about his experience with these models and all that, and also his wife, because the guy's married, happily married, and people wondered about his wife, how she was with him taking pictures of nude models and all that. So anyhow, I'm going to cover this, so that'll be interesting to go over here. So he says here, Dear SSM, you posted my story about women on March 9th, and I wanted to follow up with some comments, questions, and misconceptions related to my story. There are many questions about my wife. I'll save those answers for last. He says, my story was about my first nude model we called Jessica. As soon as I saw it posted, I told my wife to watch it with me because she hadn't really proofread my story. She watched and laughed the whole way through. It was funny because we lived it, and your comments made it even funnier for us. Well, that's why I'm here. He says, SSM, you called me an old guy. I'm 60, so yes, I'm an old guy, and I own it. Well, dude, I'm 47, so in 13 years, I'll be officially old. I ain't going to be old when I'm 59, I'm not going to be old, but when I'm 60, then I'll be fucking old. But I guarantee at 60 years old, I'll still be able to do a lot of fucking push-ups and pull-ups and shit. So many viewers missed the whole point of the story. Jessica's story was a prime example that female nature has not changed. It was not about how I made profits from photography. So there's no way I can possibly read every comment for every video that is out there. I got like 1,700 videos just on this channel alone. But I glanced at some of the comments, and a lot of people were more focused on his business as opposed to the main part of the whole story about female nature. Yes. He says, second, many viewers are concerned that I spent some money and supplies when I took pictures of Jessica. Back then, I was making a good living dealing in cameras, photo accessories, and prints. I bought my film and photo paper in bulk. It was cheap. I may have spent a massive $5 for each photo shoot. Jessica was my first nude model. It was not an unusual arrangement. The model supplied their time for my prints. Yeah, people were giving him crap about that. I have full releases from any model I took pictures of, including Jessica. This gives me the full rights to the images. I'm free to sell, use, or give away any image. Photos are absolutely worthless without a release. Even though I spent some money up front, there was plenty to be made in the back end, selling prints on a whole series. So it doesn't take, it's not, you don't need to have a master's degree in business from Harvard Business School to understand that money's put in the front, and he makes a ton of it later on when they sign the release and all that, which they obviously do. Okay. People were wondering about this. There was much speculation that I was acting nefarious. Jessica wanted to pose nude. It was her suggestion. I never had to pressure Jessica. I was directed up front with any model in regards to what we were shooting that day. There were no surprises, no persuasion, and no coercion for models to pose nude. I can't believe, the people that may have been giving you shit about that or questioning that were probably not regular viewers, because the regular guys couldn't care less about that. He says, I want to emphasize that models arrived knowing and wanting to pose nude. They were happy to pose nude. You mean they liked doing that? And they got their shots, and they enjoyed that for the potential attention and validation from you and what they can get out of those pictures? No. He says, nude shoots were always set up way in advance. I wanted happy models because happy models are your reputation. The girls frequently said I was the most normal photographer they ever met. He says photographers are a weird bunch. I've known a couple photographers in my life, and they are weird. And both of them, the two dudes, were complete, total SIMPS. Abso-fucking-lutely. Here are some responses to my favorite comments. He's being sarcastic here. One comment was, I don't like this guy. He says, get in line. It's a long one. Often decisive people such as myself are not liked. We're lightning rods. He says, GSSM, does that sound like someone you know? Yeah, a lot of people don't like me. And guess what? Have I stopped on YouTube? No. Do I give a shit? No. Because I like making money off my haters because they watch me too. I don't dream about my goals. I don't dream about my goals. I achieve them. At times I'm a real dick, but I'm not an asshole. Assholes do and say things because they don't know any better. Dicks do it with premeditated intention, precision, and far effort. Well, I mix it up. I'm an asshole. I got no problem with saying that. And you know what? Women call you an asshole, you're doing something right. I would say better to be an asshole than a dick. I reverse those things of what you're saying there. I said the dicks are the ones who are doing things because they don't know any better or they're jackasses. Assholes, hey, we own it. Just like dicks do it with premeditated intention, precision, and for effort, just like a rat bastard would. Another one comment said about him that the OP is a beta orbiter. My wife finds that one very funny and far-fetched. Once I had established a top-notch portfolio, models sought me out for all over the U.S. Yeah, in other words, he was given a hard time because obviously he was reaching out to get models in the beginning. Well, he had to do that to build his portfolio. But once he had a good portfolio of hot nude chicks, they were seeking him out because obviously they could see his work and all that. I get it. Another one says here, this is a BS story. My advice, get out of the house and away from the computer. Experience life, do something different. Life can be fun and quirky, but other times it's weird and messy. There's always going to be people on YouTube that are going to troll, dude. That's how it is. I get it all the time. There's always people that call... There are people all the time that are going to call bullshit on stories. And you know what? There's some stories I'm sure that filter through that I question that maybe were bullshit. But overwhelmingly, they're not bullshit. Truth is stranger than fiction. We're in a weird fucking world. And guess what? People are weird. You know? Maybe some people get exaggerate a little bit. But no. In your story, there was nothing that seemed weird or off about your story. But that's just how it is. Another one says, OP is a massive weirdo. He says, funny, but somewhat true, and my wife agrees. I do things very different than most people, but it works for me and my wife. Dude, march to the beat of your own drum. If people don't like it, fuck them. Another one, OP is a voyeur. Are all photographers voyeurs? In fact, aren't all men voyeurs? He says, many commenters implied that I was a Chad. I was not. I'm just not tall enough, but I was attractive enough, plus I'm intelligent with the academic credentials, confident, thought-filled, and I speak with knowledge and authority. Do not forget I'm modest too. For being an introvert, I can strike up a conversation, an interesting one, with a pretty gal quite easily. Isn't that half the Chad's arsenal? There you go. At the time, I didn't know that a man's prime was around 40 years old. Now I'm 60. All my attractive qualities are fading away, except for my net worth. I do have a mirror. I never knew that I was charming until my wife told me in my mid-40s. And I asked how. She laughed and said, I'm not telling you. It took me a while to figure out what I did and why I was charming. One commenter suggested that I'm my wife's semi-Chad. It's been a long-standing joke between myself and my wife that I am her Chad. I am quite a catch, even if I do say so myself. He's joking around here. Another one. I saw this comment a lot. That the OP slept with Jessica. He says, more than one viewer expressed this speculation. Sorry, I have discretion and self-control. I like pretty girls, but pretty girls have little sway on my judgment. That means you're not a fucking simp. One commenter suggested that if I had slept with Jessica, she would have ratted me out to my wife. In retrospect, Jessica would have outed me to my wife, and I would probably be divorced right now. See, this guy's smart enough not to shit where he eats. You know? Jessica was business. Plain and simple. Plus, the dude was married and had some fucking standards and loyalty and wasn't going to cheat on his wife. You know? There are some guys out there that'll do that. Imagine that. Yeah. He's a businessman. Why mess up? Because if he was banging any one of his models, and I'm sure he would have no problem doing that, including this Jessica chick from the previous story, then she'd have power over him. At any time, she could fuck up his life. Not to mention sue him and get money out of the whole thing. That's stupid. But a lot of guys, photographers, as he said, are weirdos, and in my opinion, are simps, and they would take any chance to get some ass and use that, that job to get some. Another one says, OP should have stopped using Jessica as a nude model when he knew she was married. And he says, sorry, I'm not her supervisor. Yeah, tough shit. Because remember, she was doing it behind her husband's back, which was not cool from her, but it's not his fucking problem. Another one. He says, unsurprisingly, more than a few commenters equate nudity with sex. Sorry, I can't help them with that. Another one says here, the OP does not have a PhD. He says, funny, are you Jessica's husband? When Jessica told me he said that about me, I walked over to my bookcase and handed them my 3.5 thick dissertation. I'll put lesser mortals to sleep. Just because I have a PhD doesn't mean I'm required to work as an engineer. One astute commenter suggested I might have suffered from burnout. It's probably true because I never worked as an engineer after my PhD. Look, there's people that go to college and get master's degrees and advanced degrees, and guess what? After a while, they get burned out doing the 9 to 5 or the grind, and they do something completely different that is with regards to their hobbies or interests. Just same thing here. Now about his wife. And that's what a lot of people want to know, how his wife was handling him, taking pictures of nude chicks all the time, or chicks half naked. He says, there was a lot of speculation about my wife, so here's some answers about her. My favorite question is, does his wife have her own high power? He's talking about weaponry. He says, seems overly tolerant. He says, no high powers, but lots of others, including 9s, 380s, a scoped .44 revolver, a 270 Winchester, and her first 1939 M1 Garand. My wife is quite handy with a pistol. Well, that's cool. The biggest question was about my wife and what she thought. When people saw my work, they always asked my wife, you let him do that. Or they'd ask me, your wife lets you do that. I'd be like, lets me? He could be like, I love my wife, but I'm going to do whatever the fuck I want. He says, I have a cool wife. Same age as me, very smart, educated, reliable, and hardworking. Very low maintenance. Well, that's a good one. An outstanding mom as well. She's tall, fit, and blonde with long legs and no tattoos. I once joked about getting a trophy wife, and someone said, you've already got one. I've used her as a model, but photo shoots quickly get sidetracked. Yeah, and I'm sure your wife's attraction for you remained all these years highly because you had all these pretty models coming in, or good-looking women that could be models, modeling for you, butt naked, and then she could tell they liked you, and therefore out of, the social proof, and I can't think of the other thing, what's the terminology here, but basically because they all liked him, that made her feel like she got a prize, My wife was a little wary at first, but she knew my work was very good, and often she would meet the models, and then she would then take the kids away to do something for the next couple hours. If she was free, she would assist me or chat with us when shooting. Oh, I'm sure she was. Meeting the models, chatting, sticking around. Keep your friends close, but your enemies closer, or your competition closer. My shooting style was very relaxed and peaceful. She found it interesting because I took pictures of some really odd and interesting people, and it made for great photos and memorable stories. She would even invite some of the traveling models to stay for lunch or for dinner. Again, keep your friends close, but your enemies closer, or your competition. Reading the comment section together, I then asked my wife, did Jessica or some of the models want to sleep with me? She looked at me like I had two heads, nodded, and said, yep. So sorry to disappoint so many of the commenters. My wife is cool with it. Great. And that is definitely rare. Many women would have a very hard time with their husband taking pictures of butt-naked chicks all the time in interesting positions and interesting outfits. And she knew darn well that many of them liked you. So that's good on her. But you gave her reason to trust you. And I'm glad you had a good marriage. So this is 25 years ago. I didn't fully comprehend why Jessica and so many other models acted the way they did. After watching shows like yours, I now see their true nature and much clearer, and more importantly, I can describe it. It is true, they yearn for, wait for it, attention and validation, with total disregard to how these actions affect other people. Jessica was just a typical woman. He says, P.S. I have some other stories. Maybe I can write them up. I knew a Playboy model named Carla. Red flags all the way. Her daddy issues stemmed from that. Well, you got other stories, particularly about wacko chicks that were models and daddy issues and all that? Send them over. We like to hear about those things. But anyhow, guys, nothing groundbreaking in this update, but the guy wanted to answer some questions. A lot of people were interested, so I figured I'd do it. And again, backing up, about his story there about female nature. Look, human nature has not changed really at all. Think about it. We're no fucking different than we were back in the caves. We're just can communicate better hygiene, live longer and more technologically advanced. But in terms of what drives us and all that, not that much different, really. And men are going to do what they do. Women do what they do. And even back in the cave time, the little cave lady, when her husband was off to the hunt, and she's like, bye. She was doing what she could to make herself look good and was probably looking for attention from the other guys that were coming and going. I don't know. But the point is, I share these stories to show you that it doesn't make a difference where you are in the world, what your culture is. They're all the same. And guess what? We're the same too. Let me make that clear. So this channel really is about human nature. The good, bad, and most certainly the fucking ugly. All right, guys, that's it for today. Be sure to comment down below. Let me know what you think about this. And guys, you got a good story to share, send it my way, strongsuccessfulmale@gmail.com. And if it's a good one, I'll definitely cover it. And be sure to like the video, share with your friends, and subscribe. And I'll catch you next time.